is Ellis Smith, and today I'm going to be presenting to you my research project, which is Daily Stressors and Mental Harm in Rohingya Refugee Camps in Bangladesh, a Gender Analysis. So to start, who are the Rohingya Muslims? The Rohingya Muslims are an ethnic minority population from northern Rakhine State in Myanmar. They're currently the most persecuted minority in the world and the largest stateless population in the world. The discrimination against the Rohingya Muslims began in the 1960s when a military dictator named Ne Win took power and began a process of separating the Rohingya Muslims from the rest of Myanmar. He led something called the Dragon King Operation, which was a brutal campaign of separating Rohingya Muslims from the rest of Myanmar with violence. From 1990 to 2012, there were several waves of military violence against the Rohingya in Rakhine State, which culminated in the 2017 clearance operations, in which the Myanmar military unleashed a wave of violence, which included burning down villages, mass murder, mass rape, etc. These clearance operations were led in response to an attack from a Rohingya militant group on the Rakhine police. However, this Rohingya militant group is not nearly representative of the opinions of the entire Rohingya population, but the Myanmar military justified this attack by claiming that RSF represented the opinions of the entire Rohingya population. This has led to a mass exodus over the past couple of decades, and today there's nearly 1 million Rohingya refugees living in refugee camps, mainly in Bangladesh. So in 2018, Fortify Rights led a study in which they collected data on mental harm, functioning difficulties, daily stressors, mental illnesses, etc. Within the Bangladeshi refugee camps, mainly in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. And the data from this study was collected via a method called participatory research, meaning that Rohingya refugees themselves are trained to interview other Rohingya refugees for data, and this makes the data overall more reliable because being interviewed by peers often makes your responses more authentic as you feel a lot more comfortable. This had 495 participants, and the current study analyzes the data that was collected in this study through a gender lens. Another study was put out in 2018 by Oxfam called 1 Year On, Time to Put Women and Girls at the Heart of the Rohingya Response. This study highlighted the main difficulties faced by women within the refugee camps. They highlighted a number of issues, but they highlighted mainly issues in female-led households. Many of these female-led households are led by women because women's husbands have died, their fathers have died, so they've had to take the role as the head of the household, which is often very stigmatized in the Rohingya culture due to their conservative Muslim nature. So my hypothesis is that Rohingya refugee women who have lost immediate family members, therefore who are more likely to be widowed and leading households, will show higher correlation to daily stressors and functioning difficulties than men who have lost family members. So the methods to start, we ran a correlation matrix on this program called the IBM Statistical Package for Social Sciences. This is basically a correlation model run between all of the variables in the dataset, which there were hundreds of variables in the dataset. From there, we kind of delved deeper into the main correlations we found and created new variables as a way to combine multiple variables into one correlation model. So we created a variable of total missing family, in which combined variables such as lost family members in Myanmar, deceased family members in Myanmar, etc. We combined all of the daily stressors variables such as stress due to food, stress due to education, etc. In Bangladesh into one variable, and also total sexual violation in Myanmar, which included things such as rape by security forces, sexual assault, etc. And so for each more specific correlation model we ran, we selected cases for men and women, which meant that basically we turned off the half the data that was collected from women, and then ran the same model again, but just for men. So we ran each correlation model twice, once for the data collected from females, once for the data collected from males. And we continued running correlation models until we found ones that showed statistical significance either on the 0.01 scale or the 0.05 scale, which means that either we have 99% confidence with the 0.01 scale or 95% confidence with the 0.05 scale that the results that we found were not random, that they would be replicated again if the study were to be repeated. And so here in the orange, you'll see the results from the correlation matrix. The most notable result for the male perspective, which is on the left here, is that there's a correlation between sexual assault in Bangladesh and being male. So there could be a number of reasons for this, but we mainly think it's because there's underreporting women, which makes a correlation to being male, and there might be underreporting for reasons such as stigma within the Rohingya population, especially because women who are not virgins who've been assaulted are often unable to marry. Also in Bangladesh, especially in the refugee camps, women don't really leave their homes as often because there's a lot more fear, which might lead to lower levels of sexual assault. Here for women, on the right, we see blockage from a lot of different things, just working, marrying, etc. Overall, just higher levels of functioning difficulties, and also a higher sum score of human rights violations. And so figure 1 and 2 show the correlations between losing a family member and high daily stressor levels in Bangladesh, so in the refugee camps. For figure 1, it's the correlation model run for women, figure 2, it's for men, and as you can see, figure 1, there's an extremely significant correlation on the 0.01 level, meaning we're 99% confident that these results are not due to chance. For figure 3 and 4, you can see the correlation models between having lost a family member and overall functioning difficulty. There's a significant correlation for both men and women, figure 3 being for women, figure 4 being for men, but for women, the correlation is significant on the 0.01 scale, so the correlation there is much more statistically significant. And then lastly, here's a correlation model run between total sexual violation in Myanmar and forced abortion. This could be for a number of reasons, but we think that mainly this is due to the fact that oftentimes women who are forced into abortion, Rohingya women particularly, who, are often forced into abortion as a way of curbing the growth of the Rohingya population as a method of genocide, that these women in these situations are often more vulnerable to things such as sexual assault. And so to conclude, overall, among women, losing a family member has a higher correlation to both functioning difficulty, daily stressors, etc. And there might be a number of reasons as to why this is, but here are some reasons that we have speculated there could be. Something that was mentioned in the Oxfam study in the review of literature is that the practice of purdah, which is veiling women, often makes functioning difficulties for women because there's limited resources for veils in the camps. So oftentimes women will have to share veils with other people, meaning that a group of women who all share one veil, only one of them can go out at a time. So it's hard for women to even get out of their house. Also, washroom insecurities, they're really not secure at all, and oftentimes women feel very vulnerable to men on the outside and stuff like that. They're also not very sanitary, so difficulties even just washing themselves and getting water are sure to create many problems for them. Also found in the Oxfam study is that there's a lot of stigma against female-led households. These women who have lost family members, often this is seen in local Rohingya community leaders who are men, not notifying female-led households when new aid comes in due to the stigma of women leading households. And also overall, there's higher levels of psychological trauma for women, as seen in the higher human rights sum score, which might make the adjustment harder for them. Also, globally, it's a constant that there's higher levels of post-traumatic stress disorder and depression among women than men. Also, just overall adjustment difficulty because many women don't grow up kind of being prepared to lead a household one day, and they likely have come from situations where they've had fathers or husbands leading households, but when they lose these relatives in the genocide, they're often thrown into this role that they're not very prepared for. And so the implications of this current study are mainly just to innovate the aid that Rohingyas receive. These study results will soon be published, hopefully for aid organizations to read, and hopefully it will increase their awareness about the issues faced by women, particularly widowed women who have to lead households on their own. Hopefully, and also something to note is that the original data that this current study analyzes was not really meant for this type of study, so we would need to replicate these results in another study to really confirm them before moving forward. So acknowledgements, I would like to thank my mentor as well as the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh who participated in this study. I would also like to thank the NGO that gave me permission to analyze this data, as well as my research teacher and the overall guidance that they've given me. Thank you.